Officially back. Mother effers, we're back on Adventure Time. We're back on it.
Adventure Time? What's Adventure Time? I don't even remember what this show's about.
Yeah, it was some guy in a dog.
Some boy? A boy and a dog? Okay. A boy and a dog. And sometimes they have relationship stuff with people, and sometimes they spend an entire episode climbing up a tree for some reason.
Yeah, dude.
Sometimes they're heroes of a universe, and you know, that's cool too.
Yeah, sometimes they're heroes of multiple multiverses with deep, crazy canon shit. And now we're just, gosh, this was such a good episode to return on, man. I'm not going to lie.
Well, the squirrel was in it, and we saw the squirrel and Fiona and Cake for some reason. So.
Yeah, I think in our Fiona and Cake episode, I was like, oh, actually, it's probably really good that we're going to be returning straight to the episode that refers back to the squirrel that was in Fiona and Cake, which is hilarious.
And I had already watched, you know, we had prepared to record this episode before Fiona and Cake came out, so we were ready to go. So, you know, there was like no spoilers with the squirrel, and then also with Prismo and, you know, a couple other things.
Yeah,
So
I mean, like literally we hit so much stuff because we got to see Farm World at the beginning of season 5. That was a huge reference in Fiona and Cake. We got to see the multiverse. We got to see Prismo. I'm like, yeah, if we had done this midway through season 4, Fiona and Cake would have just been a disaster.
Yeah,
but
no, we got real lucky with time in there. But man, yeah, this is definitely an episode. We are season 5, episode 4. If you haven't been keeping track at home, it's been a minute, and we are going to be up a tree with our hero Finn this episode. And I am also equally yes. Am I excited to talk about this episode? Yes. Did I look forward to it on end for weeks and weeks as we cover Fiona and Cake? No. But we're here, you know, and I'm ready to do that. And Ned, you know this. I don't know if the followers know this. At this point, you're listening to a podcast where there are two 30-year-olds recording this podcast.
About to say, we've officially crossed the threshold of two 30-year-olds with a cartoon podcast.
Dude, am I excited to talk about a cartoon? Yes. Am I excited to be 30? No. Did I expect this to be where my life was, you know, when I was 22 out of college coming up to Nashville? No. Am I pretty pumped about where it is right now? Yes. Yeah, so, good. You know, things are good.
That's the answers I wanted. I thought I was nervous where you were going with that. And I was are we about to have a therapy
Am I giving up on
here?
things? Here's the thing, though. Am I giving up? I'm 30 now. It's time to give up, right? I think I'm giving up on my hopes, my dreams. I think I'm giving up on trying to make a lot of money. I think I'm giving up on, you know, pretty much everything outside of just
get out of here.
Living. Okay, fine. I'm not giving up. I need a new theme. My thought is right now, maybe my 30s, dirty 30, like take over 30 in the dirtiest way possible. So like dirty martinis, dirty dancing, not showering.
I was about to say, just not showering for 365 days is not a bad idea. You can just get real nice and beautiful oily skin. It's great.
Hey, it's working out so far. We'll see how long this goes for. So yeah.
Smell him through the computer,
the computer. Yep.
Let's kick into this episode because it's
okay.
I don't think we'll have it won't be as long as some of our hour plus long Fiona and Cakes, unless we tangent, which we don't on this podcast.
I think it's a challenge. I think that's a challenge this will be. I'm going to tangent right now. Ned, have you ever thrown the perfect throw?
No, I would say because I play a very baby amount of disc golf, and I would say I've never had a hole in one. So probably never a perfect throw.
Have you ever lost something up a tree that you never got back?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I would say, gosh, there's probably some things from growing up. Well, yeah, kicking soccer balls in trees.
Soccer balls in trees? You losing soccer balls in trees now? What sort of trees are you kicking soccer balls into? That's crazy.
Thick boys.
That's crazy.
What else? Okay. I mean, shoot, I'm trying to remember specifically growing up. We had this huge bush on the side of our house. We had a huge pecan tree. I would say that's the closest I would compare something of this tree magnitude from this episode. But the brush of trees was just yep, you could just it may not have been up the tree, but a lot of things went into that brush.
Into the tree, okay.
And never came out. So in the tree, part of the tree. Absolutely.
In the tree, part of the tree. That is truly how it goes. I mean, I could tell you that I lost something when I was a kid in a tree, and I never got it back. I had, for my birthday, got a remote control plane, and I was so pumped, and it was huge. And I was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. And I flew it. We were out on some practice football field. I think it was the Falcons' old practice football field or something like that. It was in Gwinnett at the time. So you could just go out there when they weren't practicing. And I took off, and then it got out of range, and the plane, it just kept going straight. And it literally, we raced after it because it was quicker than we could run. And the thing just kept going straight until it got stuck in this massive tree. And kind of me and my dad looked at each other. I think we threw a football at it or two a couple of times, and we just gave up and we had to leave it. And I was real bummed. I mean, a very quick birthday present for sure.
a good and quick birthday present. But let's just say, I mean, that's a good point to come across that. Yeah, you're sitting at the bottom of that tree throwing a football at it. And there's something about it. It's like having your pants caught down. There's something very humbling about staring straight up at a tree, hawking a football at it and not getting it down.
It is.
And maybe that's what Finn's little goal here was he's like, he hawks the Frisbee into the tree. He SpongeBob perfect bubbles the throw. And he's like, it's like sometimes, again, tops of the episode for me, sometimes a man's just got to get his own disc. And maybe he just was like, you know what? I need a good humbling adventure to not get, again, it's the whole adventure here is the opposite of a Jake mistake.
Well, Jake could have got it. We all know.
Jake could have got it, but
Jake
it was like a
right
choice.
Next to it.
It was I loved the realization. And even with the writer's realization that we've got this ex machina concept with Jake. He can kind of do many, many things that solves many, many typical problems. So let's remove that factor from the equation. And it creates what I would say, that's why it's a fun adventure, is it's oversimplified for how Finn and Jake can go about adventures almost. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Finn gets the training. I think this was a great moment for him to, kind of task himself, see how high he could climb. I've got a couple statistics just based off of basically taking
inches to times of day.
No, stopwatch to see how long they fell for, and then I calculated out via an online calculator how tall
the terminal velocity
is.
Of a squirrel.
Dude, no, I guess I didn't go that deep into it. I was just saying, how tall is this tree? If they're, say, Finn's falling on top of a squirrel, and they're just an object, whatever, falling at 32 feet per second, I believe is how it's calculated. It took 20 seconds. There was a 20-second period between when Finn kicks the squirrel off of the tree and when they hit the Frisbee. And I stopped it just before that, but technically there was still 4 feet to the ground. So I said 20 is fine. Ned, the height of the tree from where they were, not the tippy top, 6,434 feet.
Let's see.
Tree.
I'm going to type right in.
Now,
I'm going to Google.
I know how many miles that is. I got it. 1.2 miles. That tree is 1.2 miles tall.
Yeah, I was going to say the tallest building in the world as of right now is the Burj Khalifa, which is 829 meters. So multiply that by 3, give or take. Well, we're looking, in feet, 2,700 feet. So about 2.5 Burj Khalifas, close to 3.
About 3? Dude, that's pretty wild.
That is wild. We got a tall tree here. Wild. Now,
we got a real tall tree. It's above the clouds. I mean, no wonder it took them maybe an entire season to freaking get up there,
Well, we definitely went through some seasons, aka weather changes, types of day changes. So we can imagine that this is probably a multi-day adventure of Finn climbing as a little miniature person. But I'm glad you mentioned the fall, though, because it reminded me of a story. Because I was walking my neighborhood last year. We've got these big pine trees in the neighborhood. And as I'm walking, I just hear, and it thuds right next to me or in a bush. And it was a squirrel that got you know how they like chase each other up and around trees, and one just like fell from like probably 200 feet up, maybe 150 feet up.
Wow.
I hear this thud in the pine straw, and I'm like, what? Wait. And then I hear like a scuffling around, and it like goes back around. I was like, okay, so the terminal velocity of a squirrel is not necessarily life,
not enough to kill it
per se, not enough to kill it. So
I'm pretty sure that's the same for cats, you know. And I think anything, well, not monkeys. I'm guessing freaking monkeys are jumping around in trees. Do they die if they fall? That is terrifying. I don't want to think about that. I've got enough. We'll talk about my Roman empires on the next episode because we're talking about relationships and stuff. So we'll talk about my Roman empires. I don't need a new one, which is, do monkeys die all the time when they're just falling out of the trees? I don't need to think about that.
I'm assuming not when they're,
why wouldn't they, dude? A monkey falls 200 feet. You don't think it's going to break?
Okay.
Anyways, let's,
we'll get to that one.
All right, let's get back on this episode.
We'll get back to this episode.
I want to talk about the seasons changing as we're mentioning this. There's a moment when Finn's small, right? He's climbing up the tree. You have the animation changes slightly with all of the seasons.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's like the rotting of the tree with all these like worms and stuff. It's got to be a metaphor. My house canon, I think it's an obvious house canon that it's more of a metaphor for it taking Finn forever to reach the literal top of the top of the tree, not a literal year passing by. That being said, I mean, you know, it is a freaking tall tree as we just talked about, but there's difference in animation. Jake didn't show up, which seems a little odd that he wouldn't show up for a year. And then also, though, in the next episode, again, we will talk about 16 weeks going by and Jake hadn't shown up. So, but Jake doesn't show up. And then, let's see, massive damage being done to the tree by the worm. So it just doesn't feel like that actually happened to me.
Yeah, that is probably somewhat of not a hallucination, but an exaggeration per se of like Finn's perception of the tree.
But dude,
like in a
feet.
hallucinogenic way. But yeah, 6,000 feet.
He is
small. Climbing into
He's
different.
A little guy.
If we're talking about a 6,000 foot tree, we're talking about different ecosystems too. Like,
he's in a different stratosphere. I don't know,
stratosphere of the climate here. So, but you know, I'm with you. It seemed, and there's possibilities of this episode, the next episode. With the writers being like, you know what, we're going to have Finn turning another year older at some point in season 5. So we need to like make sure we address the fact that he's grown another year. So like maybe we have these really one-day adventures, but then we have also these like super long adventures. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I was kind of thinking in my mind is like a little bit of how did a year of adventures happen? It's like, well, he spent, a week, a season climbing up a tree,
Yeah. Do you think, is Jake being a good dog in this episode? Because he obviously is kind of bailing on Lady Rainicorn for a bit there as she's setting up, or they set up and they go, let's go throwing and catching. I'll be dog, you be human. I mean, I don't think he's being bad dog. I don't think bad dog is happening right now.
I think it's the same thing. You go out on a picnic with your friends, let's say, you bring a football or you bring a frisbee and you're like, we're just going to go toss the frisbee. Like, that's not like bailing on your girlfriend. Lady wants to be out there. It's a beautiful day. And then as soon as Ben's like, I'm going to get to the tree, he's like, I'm going to go hang with Lady for a little bit. I'm going to go back to Lady's house for a little bit. So,
that's a good point.
He's not ignoring her. I think he just had a little fun on the side while she was chilling. And she's pregnant in this episode. Again,
she is. Yeah.
Comes into play 2 episodes from now. Mm-hmm. And I was going to say, let's talk about Jake being good dog, bad dog in that episode, so let's not get too far into it.
I think we'll also do it next episode just a little bit. I keep saying next episode because we're doing 2 tonight, so I've watched the next episode, which is about the little people.
Yes, well, and I just know about the next episode too.
Yeah. So, anyways,
but I do love the kind of the kickoff, and why I think this is such a good Adventure Time episode, especially coming off of Fiona and Cake when we were like, hey, this what's missing? Like, there's like some Adventure Time that's not missing. The episode kicks off with them being like, this is my throwing and catching disc. And then Jake's like, oh, I'll be the dog, you be the human. And then he's running around going, dog, 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 dog. And Finn's like, hello, I'm a human. Hello, I'm a human.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of Adventure Time jokes that are so funny that I think I've just been like wanting,
It's so weird that you say that, because I think about the reviews and people talking about each episode of Fiona and Cake, and it really felt like people didn't want the Adventure Time humor thing. They didn't want Adventure Time to just be Adventure Time. They wanted that canonical thing that we got. Like they wanted what we got out of Fiona and Cake. But whenever there was a moment of, like, for instance, the squirrel being in Fiona and Cake and wasting an episode in a way, like, I think I was a little bummed about it, but that was like classic, like, Adventure Time. And I know other people were bummed about that moment. And I was just like, dude, but that's what we love about Adventure Time. Like, Adventure Time's a really long show. I mean, we're 5 seasons in, and we've gotten like a handful of canonical events that have really mattered.
Yeah.
So
I
don't know.
We're waist deep in the pool, but we're not in the deep end yet, for sure.
It's just interesting that there was so much complaining about, like, the moments that felt the most like Adventure Time and Fiona and Cake to me.
Yeah.
But I guess we can't just talk about Fiona and Cake this whole episode.
No, but I'm saying that I'm maybe coming off of that this episode, especially with just Finn himself, that I was like, that's what, dude, like, it's almost like lined up. We've got that moment. We've got one of my favorite moments, not my tops, but one of my favorites, when he's just like, pooped.
He's so pooped.
So pooped. Dude, that, and then
why is he so tired, man? I mean, he barely climbed up the tree at that point. He's exhausted.
I know. Well, that was to, I think, humanize him, of like climbing a little bit up a tree is exhausting.
It is tiring. It is tiring. Yeah.
And then my favorite, again, Jackie's favorite, I think, Finn liner of the episode is he gets up to the top of the tree finally and goes, "Where's my dingus?" And I was like, that's it. That's the joke. That's the joke I wanted. That's all I needed this episode. Yeah. It's just Finn going, "Hey, where's my dingus?
Where's my dingus?" That is a good one. I'm trying to think of my tops was the moment when Finn is a prisoner, right? And he's just like talking to the squirrel about, will he be a prisoner forever? It's just like, yes, you are a prisoner. Will you ever be free? No, you won't be. Like, the whole conversation is actually hilarious.
The whole conversation is hilarious, almost infuriating to a point if they had kept it going on too long. But it ends so well with Finn just being like, "Hey, man, let's go." And he just steps out of the bars.
Dude, I mean, obviously, I think it just goes without saying almost. The squirrel is my lovely of this episode. He's so delusional and so adorable, and also almost annoying, but he's like an initiate of this cult. Like, he's new. They're kind of picking on him anyways, as he mentions in that awesome conversation when Finn's in jail. He's like, yeah, they put me down a whole bunch. Like, they're trying to say that I'm just a normal squirrel when, like, I'm obviously a flying squirrel, or at least in his mind. He's like, yeah, in my mind, am I miles and miles away flying around at like the flying squirrel I am? Sure,
in my mind.
Yeah, now, there's like, if I had a friend to break out, like, would I do like, get out of here? He's like, yes, I would. I would get out of here.
Now, there is an interesting point you just brought up, because this is one of my deeper thoughts of the episode, is the signs of a cult. And I'm a cult documentary like fanatic. I love watching all of the really deep, like,
and
the Jonestown stuff, the Keith Raniere stuff. There's like some really, and it's just really interesting with like what people can get away with. So in one of the ones I watched about like the psychology of a cult, they do say that there has to be specific things for like the FBI to deem something a cult. And if it doesn't check all those boxes, they can't like bust it for like shutting down a cult, essentially. So I've got 10 things here. Absolute authoritarianism without accountability. Zero tolerance for criticism or questions. Lack of meaningful financial disclosure regarding budget. Unreasonable fears about the outside world that often involve evil conspiracies and persecutions. A belief that former followers are always wrong for leaving and there is never a legitimate reason for anyone else to leave. Abuse of members. Records, books, and articles of programs documenting the abuses of the leader or group. Followers feeling that they are never able to be quote-unquote good enough. A belief the leader is right at all times, and a belief the leader is the exclusive means of knowing the quote-unquote truth or giving validation. So, with those points in mind, this little critters in the tree check off a lot of those boxes. So we're verging on cult. Now, is the owl the absolute leader of this group that cannot be questioned and that holds the source of absolute truth? I don't think so. I don't quite
You don't think so?
I don't quite think he's viewed as the leader, the shaman of this tree. That he's
Ned,
not.
He has a shirt that says "owl" on it.
Now
I want you to just think about that for a moment.
It is absolutely narcissistic of the owl to wear owl on his shirt. But when they're sitting around the group talking about what they're going to do with Finn, now they are questioning each other back and forth. They are questioning, like, what are we doing? Like, why can't he be in the tree? I don't think there's necessarily. I think there's some blind, like, listening to the owl as their leader because they're stupid, but not because he's holding over them that, he's got this magic tree god that's like blessed him. He's
it's
like
just
a divine
the tree
being.
Is what the tree is. We're in the tree. Once you're in the tree, you stay in the tree.
Yeah,
and that's all there is to it. So there's not enough direction, is what you're kind of saying. Like,
there's not enough direction. So I think this would border on a organized or chaotic religion per se, not necessarily.
Maybe they're like
cult.
On the way. Like, I feel like the owl, that owl shirt's probably new for him. He's just kind of figuring out, like, oh my gosh, I'm the leader of this. Like, maybe I'm going to take control. I don't know. I'm curious. I mean, of the cults that we've seen, because the other cult was the dancing teddy bears, and the monster's body. I'm trying to, man, it was so long ago. Party Pat, yes. Like, what happened that episode? That was definitely a cult. Is this more a cult or less a cult than Party Pat?
I would say this is a verging on organized religion that, because of the owl, that he could easily turn it into a cult, which is, again, how most cults start anyway, is they start as some crazy, weird sect of a religion. And then some leader goes, hey, whoa, I can make these people do what I want them to do because I've convinced them that have got this connection with the divine, Yeah.
And so I'm curious, Ned. I mean, have you ever been in a cult? Have you ever felt like you were a part of a cult?
Not part of one. No.
Hey, be real.
But I think I've told my Scientology story on this podcast before.
I believe it's been a while.
Yeah, it's in long short story. We accidentally took a apartment tour of the Church of Scientology Celebrity Center in Los Angeles, and let me tell you, that one's not a cult because they don't have a leader. That's the only reason the FBI is not shutting them down. There's definitely some shady shit going on. There's definitely no leader, brainwashing going on. There's no leader that is at least publicly known.
Yeah. I mean, Tom Cruise, I don't know how high up he is in Scientology, but
they've got him by the balls, man.
Yeah, I'm sure they do.
Tom
also,
Cruise
he's
is
like risking his life for movies all the time,
Lenny the Beaver in this episode. Maybe that's our Tom Cruise.
He's definitely Lenny the Beaver for sure. Dude, I mean, I'm trying to think of this because, I don't know if you know this, Ned, but when I was a kid, I was a cyclist. So,
so I was in a cult.
So I was in a cult. No, I'm just saying that because you've called me out in the past for being like, dude, you've talked about you being a cyclist. I think
hey, you just joined a CrossFit gym too. So
I did.
I'm going to be walking on thin ice.
Working out, I definitely feel like working out can be cult-like. I don't think CrossFit is a cult necessarily.
I think there's specific CrossFit gyms that begin to get pretty
arguably culty. Be. Yeah, I think RuneScape could be very cult-like behavior when it takes over I've got two childhood best friends. One of them is obsessed with RuneScape. The other one's obsessed with working out. And so both of those topics to me feel like they're trying to brainwash me into joining their cult whenever we talk about working out or RuneScape or CrossFit, because they both do CrossFit as well. I mean, it is on the border of cult-like behavior. And also, both of them were on my cycling team. And I just got to say, my coach used to say cycling was his religion. We used to do it 6 to 7 days a week for at least an hour plus, especially in late high school. One time in Bend, Oregon for nationals, they tried to hold me down and shave my legs because that's what everybody did. Everybody shaved their legs. So I got a patch shaved.
There's the abuse.
There's the abuse.
There's the check mark.
I had 2 inches of my leg, and I have fairly hairy legs, shaved by my friends, who I thought were my friends, freaking shaved part of my leg. at nationals. I mean, traumatizing, truly. They chased me around the house, pulled me down, or held me down and shaved part of my leg. Yeah. I mean, emotional abuse. Me and Allie talked about this a little bit. We also discussed, like, there are certainly segments of a non-cult, which, and what we were talking about was Christianity, that could deem or be more cult-like as well. I mean, even just from growing up at a Methodist church and then going on retreats and doing Crew and doing Wesleyan college and stuff. And like when you're on those retreats, it does sometimes feel a little bit like you're being engulfed in, Allie mentioned there are like cry nights where you spend the entire, and I never did a cry night, I don't think, but you spend the entire trip learning and hearing about how bad you are of a person. And then at the end, it's like, ask for forgiveness and you can be saved and cry, feel free to cry as we worship or whatever. I mean, I can definitely think of like the emotional manipulation for the sake of like in a religious experience, or like breaking down your metaphorical walls of that first night on a retreat of the weekend where they're just like, we're going to worship, all throughout the night, stay as long as you want, sort of a thing. And people are just weeping, and like I felt that. I felt overcome by whatever that is, certainly. And looking back on it, some of it's a little odd, I don't know.
I think that's where there's the aspect where you do have to draw a line between a religion and a cult, because like you're just like, oh, every religion's a cult. Like, no, it's not, because like the term cult came out of Jim Jones and like the Jonestown Massacre, and that's where it was late 60s, I think. And with churches now, it's hard because you do have the emotional aspect, what feels like a brainwashing type mentality where,
and I do think there are Christian cults.
Oh, absolutely.
Without a doubt, there are Christian cults. Yeah, no doubt.
And then, well, you bring up a good point, because now I'm kind of remembering our story. This first church that we went to, one of the churches we really started liking in Nashville. Again, while we were doing all these cult documentaries, we liked the community. Now, the pastor was very eccentric. He came from a Pentecostal church. For those who don't know, Pentecostal churches are very much about the emotion and talking in tongues, and it's just this crazy like event. But he left that. This is like a non-denominational church, and we were like, okay, he's a little eccentric. He's like a little like into himself. And probably one of the last times we went, he was like, oh yeah, like at the children's, your children will, for learning Bible verses, they'll earn John bucks. His name was John. And your children and they had a little fake piece of paper with like the pastor's face on it. And it was like, your kids will earn John bucks to, exchange for rewards. And I was like, that's culty. Yeah, you're putting yourself as this idolized leader of the church. And I was like, we're out. Then we left. Like we didn't go back. Weird. I was like, that's not cool, dude.
Well, I just think if any porcupines ever come up to you and they just say, hey, sit on me. And porcupines could be a metaphor for anyone. If anyone ever comes up to you and rolls down a tree maybe and says, hey man, sit on me. You know what you should do? You got to be sitting on me right now, because I got these spikes and I can just like boost you right on up this tree.
If you say that to a stranger, I'm pretty sure you get arrested nowadays for that.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that the porcupine was just like, dude, I'm sorry. I thought it would work. Obviously, he did it on purpose to try and keep him away from the tree. And then once he's in the tree, keep him in the tree with those. I guess he doesn't really come back, the porcupine. But still, I mean, dude, iffy behavior. Sit on me. I don't know about that then. You should have just headed back to hang out with Jake and Raina Coyne at that point.
Well, the porcupine and the squirrel too, because even when the squirrel's like, eat this apple, and he's smiling and Finch shakes his head and then he shoves the apple in his mouth. Like, I know, that's like scary behavior there.
Dude,
not his fault. We learned he was.
It is his fault though. You can't force a freaking apple on someone like that. Like, I mean, he's my lovely, and I do feel like that is the one moment that like is not cool at all. But also, why was Finn overpowered by a squirrel?
No, he was like, when you look at the comparison size, the squirrel's about twice his size at that. Or no, actually, that's what when he was.
He's still big. Yeah, because the apple made him small. So
yeah, very interesting. Maybe Finn was pooped. So maybe
he was pretty pooped. He was pretty pooped, and that apple did sort of reinvigorate his energy just a little bit to help him climb up that tree. Which Finn's got a really positive aspect or a positive perspective on those first two encounters.
Yeah,
like, dude, I got your quills. I can climb up this tree now. Thank you. You did help me. And like, I do feel a little bit better because I ate this apple. I appreciate it, man. Like, I don't know, Finn, gosh, dude, the theme is people giving Finn unwanted help, when it's being refused, Porcupine, Squirrel, and then Jake also trying to give him unwanted help as he's refusing. Like Jake said, dude, I can just get it. It's like, all right, well, don't need any more apples.
He was pretty much setting out for this to be a Finn versus physical challenge type of adventure. Didn't want to cheat. Didn't want to be boosted up. Didn't want that. He was like, this is just my thing, guys. Like, I'm just doing this for a workout, physical activity adventure type thing. So
yeah,
very interesting. Now I do have a fun factoid because I didn't really get into like this episode in terms of like crazy deep thoughts besides cult stuff. But I was like, man, why does this voice sound familiar? Like Porcupine comes in and it just feels familiar.
I was wondering that too. Yeah.
The owl feels familiar. I first thought about John Goodman in Oh Brother Where Art Thou, his kind of like Southern drawl in Oh Brother Where Art Thou. And I was like, it's not him. Guy's name is Jim Cummings. He does the porcupine, the owl, and the beaver in this episode. And I looked him up. I was like, oh my gosh, he does Tigger and Winnie the Pooh. He does Winnie the Pooh. He does Pete from at least a lot of the years of Mickey Mouse. So that's the one I think that caught me, was that it's Pete's voice. He does Scar from The Lion King. He does one of the bandits from Clone Wars. And so he was like, and then a lot of other like pseudo Looney Tunes characters.
That's awesome.
So I was like, that's why everybody knows Tigger and Winnie the Pooh's voice. Like,
yeah. Is he the OG? He's like the original guy for that?
I don't think so. I'm sure it was just like that was just coming up as he's been Tigger and Winnie the Pooh and everything. So they changed. They've done so many seasons of different Winnie the Pooh, but I would assume it's the New Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. What played, late 90s, early 2000s, I think. That's what I would assume, because that's the one I like very much recognize. And then Pete from, I think it's Pete from like Mickey Mouse cartoons, like more modern, House of Mouse, Goofy movie. Like, I think that's him.
Yeah. Dang, dude, that's awesome. I'm just so curious. I'm going to, after this, I'm going to do some research. Yeah, we really did. Oh man, I'm getting distracted. I can't be distracted, and I need to stay on top of this podcast. I know I don't need another Roman Empire of just Googling Winnie the Pooh voice actors and how long they did it for.
And now we're going to list off 17 Winnie the Pooh voice actors.
Yeah, now our podcast is just going to be that. And also, now give me your best Winnie the Pooh. No, don't. You don't need to.
Oh gosh, yeah, I was about to say I got to totally like bother.
It's almost a Mickey Mouse. It's almost Mickey Mouse.
Oh boy.
Father.
Oh gosh, Minnie.
Yeah, I think it's impossible to do Mickey Mouse and not sound a little bit more like the South Park version of Mickey Mouse.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
get over these fucking purity rings.
Don't you ever fucking talk to me like that again. Speaking of South Park, though, immediately I get when we see them all in the green room around the little stump doing their planning, I totally got Christmas Critters vibes from South Park. If you've never seen the Christmas Critters episode, where it's like the Satan worshiping little woodland animals. So
I saw that too.
As close to Adventure Time can get to Christmas Critters without worshiping the devil.
And at first I thought the squirrel, the squirrel, knocked Finn out with the acorn, but I think it was either a different squirrel or maybe it was a beaver. I'm pretty positive it wasn't.
I think it was
our boy. Yeah.
Our boy had not that crazy of eyes at that point.
No.
I think.
I mean, he's plenty delusional, but
he's delusional,
like you said,
but he's not
that crazy.
He's not quite brainwashed at this point.
Yeah.
So.
They got a whole plethora of toys and things up that tree, man. I mean, they're stocking up.
That's the check mark of cult financial gain, is that they're just stealing people's stuff out of the tree.
It's like Finn and Jake, how they have that giant treasure room and they never use any of their treasure. It's kind of a similar vibe of this tree, which just, I mean, how many people are playing? I mean, it's one tree in the middle of a field. how many things are getting stuck up there? Why so much stuff getting stuck up there?
You see a lot of there's a lot of species out there in the grass kingdom. Because there's not the grass kingdom spans all this land between Ice Kingdom and the Candy Kingdom. So I think we get a lot of critters and creatures that go and play and everything like that. So I'd assume there's some stuff out there. Yeah. Kites specifically. Maybe some candy
kites
people.
Specifically. We don't see Finn unshrink this episode. I'm guessing somewhere along the way he gets a strawberry or the cursed strawberries that grow you.
Yeah, if we know anything about the squirrel from Fiona and Cake now, is the squirrel does have a tendency to be gathering up these magical fruits. Yeah. So,
I think it becomes his job. He's like, you know what?
It's a full-time job.
I had the hookup at that point. I was in a cult, and I learned the dealer.
now I'm turning this into a career.
Yeah, he's smart. I mean, if anything, maybe he's not delusional at all. He's down there. Mark Maron. I mean, for crying out loud,
Yeah, maybe we'll call this this episode From Cult to Career, a Squirrel Story.
From Cult to Career, yeah. I like it. I like it, dude. I was trying to think of the perfect throw, because you have a throw that's so perfect the disc doesn't spin at all and they can just sit on top of the disc.
That's what I was thinking is that always bugs me a little at the end of this episode is that the disc is flying totally spinless. Is kind of throws me off.
I know, but I can definitely relate, at least in the sense of when I was in middle school, I was a punter for the football team. And man, when you get that perfect end over end punt, it does feel
almost like a knuckleball
something special.
Too.
Oh yeah. Well, not a knuckleball. What are you talking about?
I'm talking about when you you get a punt. I guess maybe that's a little bit with a soccer ball where it's it's so crisp and clean that there's no spin on it through the air.
Yeah, no, I'm talking spiral. Your ball is spiral.
Oh, you get that one,
really nice, and you get it. It goes tip over tip, which is, dude, it's a good feeling. It's been a while. I need to get back out there, start punting. Maybe I could walk on. I'll walk on somewhere.
Maybe I'll just go to the Falcons and just walk on.
Yeah, Falcons, Titans. They need to. They gotta need a punter. I mean, I'm sure they punt all the time. Neither one of those teams is all that great.
It's very good. Yeah, you can be a great punter on a team that sucks, right?
Dude, I think it's a little late. I mean, I'm 30. Like I said, we got to just give up. I'm giving up on dreams. I just got that dream that was just now going to be one of my dreams, and I'm already giving up on it. Immediately gave up on it. I mean, that's just the way things go once you turn 30. Do I like it? Do I want it to be that way? No. But have I accepted it? And am I going to move on with my life and just keep on trucking? Yes.
Yes, absolutely. But let's talk about, before kind of wrapping up, and it's not a deep thought. It's as deep as this episode can get.
Oh, get real deep. How deep can you go? That's what I want to know.
The dream crushing of your group of peers and somewhat of a group think, crushing your dreams. Yes, the squirrel was not going, or no, the squirrel was not going to be a flying squirrel. Yes, he believed
no, it could never be. Yeah.
Did he fly at the end of the episode? Yes,
So he fell, falling with style.
Falling with style.
Falling with style.
We got a lot of good references in this episode too.
Yeah. We also need to, whenever we do a reference, just say what the reference was.
Yeah, I was about to say this. If people don't know what the reference, you think it's obvious, but you don't know how many people have seen Toy Story more than once out there. So
yeah, but it's also when you tell a joke and you have to explain it. So we got to just keep going. We got to just
we'll keep going
moving
with that one. And I think we'll stay consistent with that one. But I more think about it on the lines of
bad friends.
The group think of bad friends. You got a group of, if you got a group of dudes and you're like, hey, I want to, one of my pipe dreams is to open a wine store. Now, if I had a group of friends that literally, if I brought that up every time and they're like, that's stupid. You're never going to do that. That's so dumb. That's going to shut me down. And will it be a pipe dream? Yes. But will I still have that dream and be sad that it got shut down by my friends? Yeah.
Also, yes. Yeah.
So it's one of those things where I'd say if that ties into a potential lesson is that surround yourself with people that don't shut down your dreams, even if they do tend to be silly. Now, surround yourself with friends that are realistic and will help you claw out of psychotic situations like jumping out of a tree when you can't fly. But do it so in a loving way. And if you're surrounding yourself with people that just are no, that's stupid. The way, what did the squirrel say? They're no, you're not a flying squirrel. Like,
yeah. I think, you got to pull a Knives Out glass onion and surround yourself with people that would be insanely successful and super fake. I mean, that's the real goal. It's just as fake as they can possibly be. Yeah, that's one lesson. My other lesson is, I mean, in the tree part of the tree, it's very simple. That's my other lesson.
Yeah, mine was just don't get involved with weird tree religions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, anything
hard,
that involves nature and religions.
I feel for anyone that gets to be a part of a cult. I mean, I think I have enough self-awareness not to. I sure hope I do. But I can easily see how someone would be manipulated, or you get into kind of the groupthink, or kind of like you get into a bubble. Like all you hear is this one thing. So that's your mindset. And then when an outsider comes in like once a week versus the people you're talking to every day, I'm sure it's very easy to just go, no, you're not, that's not true. Like fake news, whatever. I mean, I don't know, man. I feel for that. That sucks.
I feel for it especially when the documentaries, like when the abuse starts happening and when the financial loss starts happening and those people are still like defending, no, this is like, and then they're like $200,000 in the hole and been sexually abused. You're like, oh, this is like, you start feeling for those people because they're like totally brainwashed. Now,
why do cults always got to go the bad way? Why can't cults succeed and be awesome?
It's got.
We need good cults. Let's get a good cult out here.
I'm going to run on my platform of make America good cults again.
Good cults again. Iron Man triathlon. So that's enough. It's just working out, man. Working out to the extreme is so cultish. I mean, work out, go exercise, but to just be aware of how much you're doing it. It doesn't need to be your entire life. But as we're 30 and we're giving up on exercising, maybe don't go exercise. Dad bods are in, and what's the point in being in shape?
I'm in that season right now. I'm trying to get out of it.
Yeah, I'm also lying. I fully endorse. My rec is not exercising. It could be. My rec might be Fleetwood Mac. Did I do Fleetwood Mac the other day? Probably. Have I been listening to it nonstop since we talked about Fleetwood Mac last? Yes, definitely. I think I talked about Silver Springs, the music video, the drama, Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks, just incredible. But Rumors is an awesome album, and the album right before Rumors is also an awesome album. I can't recommend enough. Just sitting down and listening through both of those records.
Yeah, they're
incredible.
Front to back too. Front to back. I say Rumors is one that when we have dinner parties over at our house, we've got it on a record player, and that's like first one I go to, if not second one I go to for like every time we host.
Dude, that's the next record we buy for sure.
Yeah, it's a great one because it is meant to be listened to. Like side A flows all the way through, side B flows all the way through, and it's so great. So that's a great recommendation. I'm leaning back towards my my original recommendations, Russell, that you hated for so long. My rec this week is just a good not alcohol this time. It's a good grilled cheese and tomato soup combo.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, that's great. Are you sick? Why are you doing that though?
It's getting a little chilly outside, and so tonight we got sourdough bread, 2 different types of cheese, turkey. We did some mayonnaise on the inside. We made garlic butter, homemade, and that's what we grilled the bread on. Then did a little bit of dill in our tomato soup, and it was just like just a vibe. It's just a good November vibe.
A little bit of dill. There's a lot going on there, Ned. I'm going to have to break that down after this, or you break it down to me, and I'm going to have to... I feel like
I'll give you the step by step.
I wouldn't add. Yeah,
maybe that'll be part of our Patreon is Ned's recipe book.
yeah. Ned and Russell talk about things that they know nothing about. Wait, no, that's our normal podcast, Ned.
That's a normal podcast.
We can't be doing that twice. But let's do a traveler's log. I mean, while we're here, we got some time. Log. I feel like this episode we've kind of hit the point where we're like, okay, we've talked about everything we wanted to talk about for this episode. If anything comes up, we can talk about it after the traveler's log. But
that's what our traveler's log is for. If we missed anything, email us in. We might have missed some sort of huge intrinsic part of this episode that we should have talked about.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Excuse me, that's what I meant.
Well, this is from Marcos. And Marcos is actually, hello, greetings from the past is the name of the subject. He is a little far back, but a good enough Traveler's Log where I was like, we can plug this in. He'll get to it eventually. I think he just listened to the season 2 recap. So Marcos, what's up? You don't have a DJ name. What are you doing? Come on,
Marco.
I'm calling you out now. Party.
No, we didn't have DJ names listed in season 2 now. So if he's that far behind, it's okay.
He just, I don't know what this means, Ned, but he said party god out, Marcos. So maybe he's the party god.
He
capital
could be
G.
If you party god is the flying wolf head in Adventure Time.
You're right. There is a party god. So Marcos is claiming to be the party god.
Once Marco finally gets to this episode, I'll say, okay, you can be DJ party god, which is a pretty solid DJ.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I like that. So I'm skipping the first part. He's kind of just saying like, hey, I'm just going to email you despite the fact that I'm in season 2. And eventually I'll hear it. So Russell has mentioned he was really itching to see Cosmic Al again. And now you guys are quite a bit further along. You must have seen a bit of him along with Prismo before pivoting to new Fino and Cake episodes. So I want to know, if you were to make a food-related wish to Prismo, what would it be? So let's answer that first, and then we'll continue on. So if you got a food-related wish to Prismo, what are you asking for?
Oh, man. I think in an Adventure Time spirit, I would want not everything burrito. We're going to get to the everything burrito episode, which is a fantastic one. But I would want a combination of Jake's perfect sandwich with everything burrito.
Okay.
So I guess the perfect burrito, whatever that would be my Prismo food of choice.
I like, Prismo is going pretty simple with the pickles. This is going to be real simple. I was going to say sushi, but I think what I want is like the perfect PB&J. Because I feel like we all love peanut butter and jelly. But if you could make the perfect peanut butter and jelly, it could only be like the greatest thing ever, right?
I would take that a step further too and say the ability to make the perfect PB&J every time. Like for your portioning to be perfect every time you made a PB&J.
Yeah.
Because then
it's a monkey's paw, Ned. I mean, what's the downside?
The downside is you can only eat PB. Everything else you make is shit.
That's all you got.
Everything else, it's Rick and Morty's mentality of once you realize what perfect level is, everything else feels wonky. So once you taste the perfect PB&J, a nice filet mignon just tastes like poop.
There's no returning. Yeah.
There's no return. Yeah. That's definitely the monkey paw in that one.
Oh man, that's good. I was going to say like maybe the perfect peanut butter and jelly. The jelly is from a source that you don't want to know. Like, that's too personal of a source. Man jelly. Ooh, gross. Let's move on. The next thing he talks about, and second, if you were to be transported to live anywhere in the Adventure Time universe, where and when would you like to be?
Ooh, anywhere in the Adventure Time universe. Where and when is what he said?
Yes. Where and when would you like to be? You can just say where. Like, what universe would you like to be transported to? I'll start. I want to be transported to the baby universe from Fiona and Cake because I want those good naps. Apparently, that's like the best nap ever. That sounds amazing to me.
Yeah, that does sound pretty good. Now, I'm gonna redact my answer if I think about it too long. But my knee jerk reaction is the Pillow universe from our Pillow adventure, which we still have. Again, you have yet to get to, but for the fans, like Pillow universe seems pretty kind of awesome, except for the fact that Finn, again, the monkey paw is Finn has to eat pillows for.
Does it eat pillows?
Time. Yeah, it's like the only sorts of food. Everything in the universe is pillows.
Dude. Yeah, I don't know about that one. But Marco says, best of luck and fun to you guys. I'll see y'all in the future. And here's a picture of my rating. So he gave us a rating. Marcos, we're adding you, DJ Party Guy. You're going to be added to the email list and we'll send you a sticker from our original podcast stickers. We're still doing that. If you rate us on Spotify or review us on, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, wherever.
Yes, we still have stickers.
We still have stickers. We will definitely send you one. That'd be awesome. Now, thank you so much.
One sticker and one review for everybody. But good. Yeah. I'm glad we again. Really cool to hear we have new people on here. Not just everybody adventuring along as episodes release. That we still got people coming back. So
Yeah. And a little celebration for the podcast. We just got enough followers to we are so close, and followers, Patreons on patreon.com, Never Ending Adventure Podcast. We just got another one. We are halfway to like funding the production of the podcast itself. So not like the cost of stickers and all that stuff and all that the things that we do outside of that, but the podcast itself, production for the podcast, is about halfway to being funded by
exciting.
patrons, which is
every
so
other
cool.
episode is being pretty much funded, which is awesome.
Yeah.
That means you guys,
that's great.
We're halfway there to this being like totally not out of pocket, which is great for me.
It'll be great.
I'm not made of money.
Though, we're not including taxes, but whatever.
Meh.
Yeah, meh. Well, who pays taxes, Ned? Anyways, thank you so much. Pay your taxes. Instagram at Never Ending Adventure Podcast, TikTok at Never Ending Adventure Cast, Twitter at NEA_podcast. Get on the Traveler's Log, just like DJ Party God at NEA.travelerslog@gmail.com. We are on YouTube. We are almost to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube without putting out anything other than episodes. So that's cool. Yeah, man. Ned, I guess hey, buddy.
Hey,
let's get out of here.
Skedaddle.
Yeah, party forever.
Oh, I love you guys.